Hey, it's Holly. Today's video is going to be my last video of 2022. It is our annual wrap-up Q&A, and I'm going to be answering all of your questions. Don't worry, I'm going to be back in January, but I'm going to take a few weeks off just to really honestly enjoy some time off, catch up on things I'm behind on, and just relax a bit. So that's what I'm going to be up to over the next few weeks. Today I'm going to be answering your questions, so thank you to everyone that sent in your questions. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so I've written down your questions in a book. I'm going to go through them and answer them. Again, thank you to everyone that has put in a question for me. I did my best to go through the comments and find them, so hopefully I've answered your questions by the end of this, but we did get a good amount. So we will just start off with some that are more related to specifically some Polly sets that I've brought into the room with me, and then we can put them here as we go around. So some of my questions here, but the first one I'm going to answer is a question from Ludo, a longtime member of our community. Thank you so much, Ludo, for submitting this question. What are your thoughts on keepsakes from the Keepsake collection, and which one would you like to see remade? So I think I've been pretty open about my thoughts on the Keepsake collection. I love the Keepsake collection. I think it's awesome. I'm glad that they do it. I really do feel like they're pandering to us as the nostalgic generation that loves to go and just buy back their childhood toys. That's really why this whole channel exists, if we're being honest. So they know their audience, and yeah, I'm obsessed with the Keepsake collection. However, the things I've been pretty open about not liking about it is the quality isn't as nice. Like the figures, the plastics seem kind of cheap. They're not as well painted. I think the quality of paints they're using is not as great. There have been some quality issues in general when people purchase the sets. I noticed that a lot of people were complaining, especially with the Mermaid Dreams compact, that some of them were coming kind of damaged, or the pearl in the ring didn't look very good. So there's some issues. There's definitely been some issues. And I'm just not a huge fan of the color palette they've used for the most part, although I will say I feel like they did hit Mermaid Dreams out of the park. So that's how I've been feeling about those. And just to clarify, that Mermaid Dreams compact is not a remake. That one is actually a whole new compact, at least new to us on the market. I don't know if it existed before. To my knowledge, no one really has that information right now in the Polly community, but if anyone hears otherwise, let me know. But I'm glad that they do it, because it is an opportunity for us to buy toys for those of us that have kids that are safer for our kids, that meet current safety standards. And while the pieces themselves physically look the same, the materials that are used are probably a little bit safer. I wouldn't doubt that there's probably a significant amount of lead in Polly Pockets, if I had to guess, like vintage ones. Although maybe not. It's really hard to say. I'll be honest, I haven't tested any of mine, but they're just toys that I don't know that I'd want my kids putting in their mouth, and we know that kids do that, so it's nice to have new ones. Also battery compartments with screws. We love that. Sorry, I'm just putting on my professional and parenting hats there for a moment. But I do love that they're making them. I love that they're bringing them out. I think every time they bring one out, it creates a new wave of nostalgia, and the community just gets bigger and bigger. So I do appreciate that there is still interest and new interest in the vintage Polly Pocket era. So I do love them for that. So to answer your question, Ludo, about which one I would remake, I had to sit and think about this answer for a bit if I was going to remake one. I think I've also been pretty vocal about my love for Pollyville. Pollyville is by far my favorite collection out of the vintage Polly Pocket era, and specifically I am a huge sucker for the light up Pollyville sets. Now I've brought down two options of things that I think I would like them to remake. I don't know that they would do my first pick, just because I feel like it's a bit more of a niche set. Doesn't seem like as many of them were on the market. Therefore, it's been very expensive to collect as a collector now, decades later. But I think it would be a cool one for them to remake, and that is the 1995 Light Up Children's Hospital. I think this one would be so fun. And the reason that I would go with this one as my first pick is, one, because it lights up, right? Two, I love Polyville. But the sets actually, like, of the sets I've shown you, this one is one of my favorites just because it's very involved. Like, it really, like, it folds out, there's moving pieces, there's, you know, a scale that moves, we've got the X-ray that lights up, lots of moving pieces. And I think it would be one that would be well received. But again, the point of the keepsake collection, at least, and here, I have a business degree just for, for clarity's sake here. Putting on my hat from university and thinking about marketing, you really want something people are going to feel nostalgic about. If they're going to purchase it, it should be one of the most popular ones. So when I think to Polyville specifically, and I think of, okay, well, what would be popular from Polyville? And specifically, again, sticking with my theme of the light up Polyville sets, I think if they were going to make a Polyville set, it would be most likely from the light up collection that they would make the pizzeria. And again, this one, because this one came in their super set. So if you got a super set or any set that had anything light up in it, typically this was in it. It's a really fun set. I think it's one of the more iconic Polyville sets. Colors are great. And still lots of moving pieces. It has the same shape as a lot of the other Polyville houses. It's squared off, so it can really fit into collections easily if you were to line them up. So I think there's just a lot about this one that would make it a good contender. If you're listening, Mattel, I would like this one, but I'll take this one. But I think this one's a really well-loved set. And I think pizza is probably one of the most well-loved meals around the world, if not the most loved. So why not, right? I feel like this would appeal to a lot of people. So that's my answer, Ludo. I'd like the Children's Hospital, but if I can't have that, I'll take the pizzeria. But I would love to hear your thoughts on that too. So if you have, any of you have thoughts on what you would pick for the keepsake collection, that was a great question. I really enjoyed that one. So thank you for that. I need a pen so I can mark these off. Luckily I have one. Okay, so thank you for that question, Ludo. Another question I wanted to answer right off the bat, let me put these ones up here so we can enjoy them, was from Stephen. And Stephen's question is, if you're going to buy any of the modern Polly Pockets, which one would you buy? I actually have bought a few, not for myself, but for my daughter. My daughter's in school, and so she's kind of that prime age for playing with Polly Pocket toys. And I base my buying choices often off of things that I think I would like. She's very much like me in a lot of ways, so this is one that I more recently purchased for her. And sorry, I don't know the name of it. It's the otter one. So I purchased this one for her, one, because this is so cute. It has a fuzzy tummy, which is really soft. It comes on a, what would you call this? A hanger of some sort. So that's kind of neat too. And then they all open up like this now. And this one just has a lot of pieces inside, a lot of moving parts, but just like the figures in it were so cute. Like, look at that, give me a break. So that's why I purchased this one for her. But again, like at the end of the day, they're not like my favorite thing. It's not that I don't like them, they're just not my favorite thing. For me, it's not so much about the toy being a miniature. It's more about the nostalgia of my own childhood, of which this gives me really none. So I got her these because everything's new to her, right? This is her childhood. But for me, it's really about things I had as a kid. Of course, there's been things that I've thought about over the years, including more recently those Molang compacts that I was considering purchasing. They're so cute. But I had to sit and think about it, and really for me, it's that vintage Polly Pocket era because of the nostalgia. That's why I'm doing this. So that's why I'm not really collecting the modern stuff. I have purchased a few for my daughters, but that's why. So hopefully that answers your question. And again, Stephen, thank you so much for being a longtime member of this community too. I really appreciate you. Okay, moving on to another question here. This is a question from, and I don't want to say your name wrong, so I'm just going to spell it Rikehey. I'm not sure how to say that, or if it's a reference to something. But the question is, would you ever do behind the scene videos? In terms of me putting together my toy tours, all of that stuff, I don't think it's very interesting, personally. They're very formulaic at this point, right? I have an opening shot, a closing shot, showing you what the compact or playset looks like, walking through it. Here's the figures that came with it, and then I typically, unless I forget, which I do sometimes, do a pan shot of the, like, you know, just going over the set with the camera when it's opened. In terms of other behind the scenes stuff, I don't really know that there is much, but I'll see if I can dream something up with that, or if you have thoughts on what you would want to see in that. I did just redo my office, which you can't really see here, but mostly the reason I don't show a lot of that stuff is just personal, like family stuff, pictures of my kids, things I don't really want to put on YouTube per se. So I don't know, but I'd love your thoughts on that. So feel free to drop any thoughts in the comments on that one. But yeah, anything else, if I start to go thrifting again or anything like that, I can definitely do content around that too. This next question is an interesting question because I have been through this recently. This question comes from Ariane. Advice on packing your poly sets up or your collection if you are moving. As I had spoken about a little bit over the summer, we had been planning to hopefully purchase another house and move out of this one. We had our house for sale for a while. Ultimately, with all of the inflation going on in the world, the interest rates went up, the market kind of crashed. We're glad we stayed here for now. So we hope to maybe do something next year, but we're just kind of riding that wave at the moment, and it's probably not a time to buy a bigger house because that would just mean a lot more money out the door. So so we're here for now, but I had packed up my entire collection, and what I had done was I actually went to a U-Haul location and I bought a ton of their packing paper. So it's similar to newspaper, but obviously doesn't have newspaper ink on it because that can be a little iffy. You don't want things to transfer. Not that that would be particularly high risk, but I just wanted to make sure everything I was putting on my sets was clean. So I used that. I bought new boxes from the U-Haul location. I bought boxes of their packing paper. Of course, things like bubble wrap or bubble mailers, if you get packages in the mail that comes with that stuff and you have a space to keep some of that stuff, then you could also use that, of course. But for me, that packing paper was just really cost effective. So I tried to just follow the general rule of thumb of try not to make the boxes overly heavy. A bunch of medium-sized boxes is generally easier to move around than one really heavy giant box. And you also don't want things getting like squished or crumpled. So if you can do multiple smaller boxes of your collection. I think that's probably the safest way to go about it, and then putting things that are heavier on the bottom of the box and lighter on the top of the box. In regards to my figures, I have always kept those stored, and my figures are in this room, so bear with me while I pull them out of this cupboard here. But I've always kept my figures in these bins. So they are stored in, unfortunately, I'm very frustrated about this. This is one of my pet peeves. These are Kugis bins from IKEA, and they don't make this size anymore, and I'm mad about it. They make one that's deeper, like about that deep total, but this one they don't make anymore. I bought a bunch of small metal tins off of Amazon. I use a Dymo labeler to label them, and that's how I store my figures. So for me, I had no concerns about any of my figures or anything getting lost or wrecked when we had the sets packed up, because I knew that was all safe in these containers, and that did give me peace of mind. I can imagine that if you're the type of collector that keeps your figures with your sets, that might be a bit nerve-wracking. So that's one of the benefits to the way that I do things, but I know that not everyone likes doing that. Some people really just want to display the figures. I get it. But that did give me peace of mind. So I would say if it were me and I had my figures out, I would also find a way to store those safely, at least putting them into Ziploc bags, and then putting them in a container that is hard like this at the end of the day, so that if I put that inside another box, it's not going to get squished if there's something heavy on it, right? So just being generally aware of keeping boxes smaller, making sure that things that are more delicate are inside a hard container so that they can't get squished. That would be my best advice. Hopefully that answers your question, Ariane. All right. Another question from Steven. Thoughts on the Hello Kitty and Friends minis? I haven't looked at them. I really haven't looked at them, to be honest. Sorry that I didn't look at them before doing this video. Again, for me, I think it's mostly just that I'm really working off of that nostalgia. So I've kind of made a conscious effort to stick with my niche for now. That's not to say that I might not go down that route in the future, but for now, I'm really sticking with that. 89 to 97 Polly Pocket is my sweet spot. Plus, keepsake collection because it's done in the vintage style. But another question from Steven while we're on that topic, other than vintage Polly Pockets, what will we see from you in 2023? So I would like to share a little bit more like personal hobbies that I do. I've mentioned briefly that I have taken up stained glass, which has been really fun. I have a stained glass going right now. It is right in this room, and I cannot show it to you just in case my parents see this video because it's for my mom. But I have been working on that lately, and that makes me really happy. It's very relaxing. So I would like to show some of that, and I think an easy way for me to integrate that with the channel would be to do a Polly Pocket stained glass piece. So if anyone would like to see that, drop me a comment, let me know. That's something I'd totally be happy to do post-holiday. Would be post-holiday anyway, since I'm gonna be back in January after this video, but right now I'm focusing on making a bunch of Christmas gifts through stained glass, so that's going to take up most of my next like week and a half. So that would be one. I would say also, Steven, probably more figure creation. I've really enjoyed that. I want to like nail that. I want to start doing a really awesome job at that. So potentially bringing some polymer clay into that, trying to upskill myself on that a bit. And I mentioned this in one of my recent videos, I kind of want to try my hand at making my own Polyville set. I'm not sure how I do that, but I want to try it. And my brain likes engineering challenges like that. So I think I'd like to try. There are ways I could do that. One would be using like a 3D printer, but I think I kind of want to make it myself. I don't know. That's something. I don't think that would be a like right out the gate early 2023 project by any means, because I don't know that I have the capacity for that right now, but that's something that I have been considering. So probably that. So bringing in a little bit more arts and crafts into the channel. And then of course, there's a lot of things on the horizon. They're still in development, that Polly Pocket movie, which is exciting. So who knows, maybe something will happen with that. Will we get 2023 keepsake collection? I don't know, hopefully. They've been doing it now 2 years in a row. That's pretty cool. That'd be nice. I think they see that they're selling. So that would be awesome. And yeah, lots in there. Still collecting, although I will say I haven't bought something in like quite a while because I had a lot, and also I was trying to be fiscally responsible. So those are my reasons. But a mix of that, So yeah, a few new things, but still really sticking in that vintage Polly Pocket lane for now. I haven't shown you my Star Wars sets yet. So because they're my husband's, but I may show you those since we have them in the house. So thank you for that question, Stephen. Okay, another question that was interesting that I wanted to be sure to answer was, this one is from Someone. That is the YouTube name, Someone. Not me being rude, that is the name, Someone. Have any former employees or designers from Bluebird contacted you? So short answer to that is I don't think so. More complicated answer, and I don't like to jinx things, so I don't like to talk about things before they happen. But I was interviewed by someone related to the YouTube channel and my collection. And if that project comes to fruition and I see it, I will for sure share it here. But in terms of someone from Bluebird, no. To my knowledge, no. It would be cool if anyone from Bluebird happens to be watching this. Hey, hit me up. But I don't think so. Not that I know of. I would love to do that. I wish that Bluebird itself was still like operating and still had Polly Pockets, you know, that the whole Mattel takeover, had that not happened and everything was still there like as it was, and you could go visit like the factory, that would be really cool. But of course that all changed back in the late 90s. So is what it is what it is. And you have to wonder how much of that stuff was well documented. And for those of you that are like 80s, 90s kids, one of the things that I'll often like talk to even like my husband Chris about is like, hey, remember that commercial where this happened? And then either one of us will say, yeah, let's find it and watch it, or no, and then we have to find it and watch it anyway. So sometimes even finding like a commercial from the 80s or 90s is so hard, even on YouTube, even with so many people and so much content out there, that a lot of that stuff I think was just kind of lost to time. So who knows, maybe in the Mattel archive somewhere, maybe they kept something, maybe former, you know, executives at Bluebird kept something, but I don't know. I don't know. I would love for that to happen. That project I got interviewed for may have got some answers for that. We'll see. I don't know. Maybe. Hopefully they found something. But thank you for that question, someone. Okay, another one from, I just don't want to mess this up, so I'm just gonna put it on the screen. I noticed you are hesitant collecting Disney sets. Why? So with the Disney sets, for me, again, the channel, the core of the channel is my nostalgia for vintage Polly Pockets. Have I talked about other things? Sure. Are they made by Bluebird? Yes. But I also haven't like gotten into Mighty Max, right? For me, the Disney sets are completely removed from the Polly Pocket universe. Like there isn't crossover. Even with like Animal Wonderland, there is a Polly figure in it. Some of the Barbies that came out with a Polly Pocket, or the Lucy Lockets, they came with a Polly. But I feel like the Disney sets are just so far removed. And before someone's like, it's hypocritical, you showed Pokemon sets, or you're talking about Star Wars sets. I know, but those are also things that my husband and I are nostalgic about. The Disney play sets, and we're like a pretty big Disney family. Like we have a Disney vacation already planned for next year. I've been to a Disney park, individual trips, over 35 times. I wish that were a joke. Actually, no, I don't wish it were a joke. I mean, but that's the real number. Yeah, I don't know. They just don't speak to me. I don't have a better answer than that. They're also expensive to like actually get them complete. So for something that I just don't feel them for some reason. That's why. They're cute. I love Disney. I love that they're made by Bluebird, but I don't know, they just don't speak to me for some reason. So I know that a lot of Polly Pocket collectors are all over them, but for me, it's not my thing. It's just not my thing. I don't know how to answer that otherwise. I love everything about them, around them, but they're just not my thing. So that's why. Who knows? It might happen. I always thought, you know, if they end up in a lot, like if I purchased a lot of Polly Pockets, got a whole bunch together off of eBay somewhere, and I got one through there, okay, maybe, but it hasn't happened. So, and that also shows me that they're probably harder to get and therefore more expensive. So I don't know, I haven't gotten involved, but thank you for that question. Okay, back to one from Stephen. Who inspired you to create your own YouTube channel? Stephen, great question. Myself. I'll be honest, I don't know if you can even tell this from my channel. I'm not very good at YouTube, I don't think. But you might disagree if you like the channel. For me, I feel like I'm just kind of muddling along here. I probably could do YouTube a lot better, but this is just something that I really did for myself. I wanted to document the sets that I was getting, and this way, you know, if anything ever happens to the sets, I can go back and I can look at the videos, right? It's a way for me to share that nostalgic joy that I feel when I see Polly Pockets from my childhood again now in 2022, 2023, right? So for me, it was more about, I wanted to have video documentation of them. And someone else might enjoy that. And, you know, sometimes your interests are so niche that it's difficult to find someone that is willing to have a conversation with you about them. I'm sure you have something in your life that you like are super into that no one else is into. And not to say that no one else is into Polly Pockets, but as a 35-year-old woman, it's not easy to find people to talk to about Polly Pockets. Also, like the demographics in my neighborhood, a lot of the moms in my neighborhood are much older than me. So it's just like it's not super relatable to a lot of people in my life. So I felt kind of like, well, I want to share this with someone, and I'm glad that I found you, because this is my outlet for that. But they do bring me joy. They remind me of my childhood. I had a great childhood, and I love Polly Pockets so much. So for me, it was really just, I wanted to document them. I wouldn't say that I am a big YouTube person. My husband, I think, watches YouTube a bit more than me. When we watch YouTube at night, like if we're going to like sit down and watch YouTube, there's like very few channels we even look at, to be honest. He has a bunch. We're logged into his account. He's got the subscription set up. If I had to say that we watch one YouTube channel frequently, it's Watcher. If you're familiar with that channel, and specifically, we really enjoy Puppet History. That's what we watch. But I wouldn't say that that was the inspiration, because we've started watching that since this channel started. So no, for me, it was really just about documenting stuff. So that's my answer. Sorry, it wasn't more exciting, I don't think, but myself. Okay, 2 more questions that we will answer. This one is also from Ariane. Would you do a video on how you set up your childhood Polly Pockets? Okay, so I mentioned in some of my previous videos that when I was a kid, I would set them up along the perimeter of my bedroom. I always kind of set them up in the same order. I had like a town in my head. I don't know that I could put it back together. I can kind of see where like a few sets are. But can I properly recreate it? No. The house that I grew up in, we moved out of when I was 16. And my parents built a custom home at that point. We moved into that until I moved out. And then since then, Chris and I have lived in 1, 2, 3. This is our fourth home together, I think. Second home that we've owned. So I've moved quite a few times. My parents do not have that, don't even live in the other house that we built. So it was many houses ago, is what I'm trying to say. It's actually only 2 blocks from here. I do think the people that live there would be creeped out if I knocked on their door and asked if I could set up Polly Pockets in my old bedroom. But it's in my neighborhood, I can say that much. I don't know that I have the correct memory to set it up the way that I had it, but I basically set them up in like a U shape, and I had all of Polly built together, and then compacts, but I can really only remember having the mansion all the way at one end of the U, and then moving counterclockwise, or sorry, no, moving clockwise. If we started on the right side of the U, I went into the earlier compacts with Starbright Dinner Party, just kind of smack dab in the middle, and then by the other end of the U, so the top left of the U, then we ended up with Midge's Flower Shop at that end. So it's the best I can remember. My memory is really not that great, to be honest. My daughter has like borderline photographic memory. She can recall details about things, exactly where things happened and what happened and who was there and what day it was. It's nuts. For me, I'm just like, I think it looked like this. Sometimes I see pictures and I'm like, oh yeah, that did look like that. I completely forgot that that was that color, or like it's fuzzy. It's fuzzy. But hopefully that answer was enjoyable. I don't know. But yeah, to the best of my memory, I did make a sort of document like which sets I had and when I had collected them. So I think the last one that I collected was the 1995 Superstar, no, 1995, it's like the hair salon one. Gosh, I gotta remember the name of it now. Yellow compact, pearlescent yellow compact, heart-shaped with a bow on it. And that would have been, I think, mid last year that I got that. So pretty quickly after starting the channel, I was able to recollect my entire childhood collection that I had passed on. So that was pretty cool. And that one I got a smoking deal on. It was like in a lot of newer, not new, but like fashion poly stuff that I don't collect. It was just kind of tucked away in it, and I got the whole lot for $17 and it was complete. Everything you can ask for. So there you have it. So last question is from Stephen, and it is, do you have a message for the community? Stephen, thank you for the segue. I guess my message would just be thank you. I really appreciate everyone that's here and that watches the channel and comments, and I need to get better at replying to comments. I recognize I'm not very good at replying to my messages. And to be honest with you, it's probably just because I'm pretty overwhelmed in my life most of the time. I'm a business owner. I run a really large social media account for my business that keeps me on my toes. I pretty much work like 12-hour days for myself. So I'm doing this really like off the side of my desk. And as much as I love doing this, you often get like an exhausted version of me because I've made that commitment to make those videos. But I'm glad that I made that commitment to make those videos because I do enjoy this community and documenting the Polly Pocket sets through the process. So it's really been like a nice outlet to have every week, to be filming these videos and sharing them with you and chatting with you in the premieres too. That's a highlight of my week. So just thank you to everyone that's in the community and for being patient with me at not being the best at answering messages because just generally overwhelmed. I think that would really be my message. I'm really looking forward to just having a few weeks off to relax and catch up on everything. Of course, the holidays is such a busy time for everyone. So I'm sure you're also having a hectic few weeks leading up to the Christmas season. My favorite time of year is those few days in between Christmas and New Year's where you don't even know what day of the week it is. You just wake up whenever you want and eat whatever you want, and it's just like a blur. I love that so much. Those are the days where I don't want to go anywhere. I kind of hope that it snows, although we don't really get a ton of snow here. But as long as I don't have anywhere that I need to be, I don't need to be on the roads, I don't have any obligations, I just like to turn off for that period of time. And I'm looking forward to having that time, having my kids home, not at school, right? Just being home all day and not doing anything. I might just play games on my phone the entire time. I don't know. Maybe I'll play an old Super Nintendo RPG. I don't know. I'm excited by the idea of all the things I could do, but probably also more excited by the idea of doing absolutely nothing. So that's how I'm going to be spending my holiday. So I hope all of you have a wonderful holiday season coming up. I hope you also get some rest. I know a lot of you have had a lot going on in your lives this year, whether it be a new job, finishing school, family drama, whatever it happens to be. And a lot of you I know work really, really hard. So I hope that you get some time to rest too. I think that's the most important way to end every year so that you can start the new year feeling refreshed. So please get some rest if you have the opportunity to do so. That's it for me for 2022. Thank you so much. Thank you for being part of this community. Thank you for your ongoing support. I look forward to seeing you in 2023. And do you want a date for that? I think it's going to be January 2nd. I think that's the first Monday. I'm just looking at my planner. Monday, January 2nd, 2023. I will be back with a video for you, and you better bet I will be there in the premiere to talk to you because I will have missed you all so much. And I look forward to that. So if you haven't hit the subscribe button yet, please do that. It's free to do. It's the easiest way to support the channel, keep us moving forward and growing as a community. Also, you'll get notified anytime I post a new video, which aside from this little short break we're gonna have is every Monday and Thursday. I bring out new content for you. And again, I do hope to bring in some new things in the next year too. I think stained glass would be a fun one to do, a Polly Pocket stained glass together. Hopefully I won't cut myself a whole bunch in the process. My last project, I thought, like when you cut the glass, well, not cut it, when you grind it. Like I have this tool that grinds the glass so that after you've cut it, it's smoothed out. The glass I was using was red, and the grinder uses water. It's like a water-fed nail file is the best way to describe it. And so I thought it was just the glass, like the color of the glass, but I was just bleeding. I was just bleeding. It was my blood. It wasn't the glass. It wasn't wet glass water. Awful, awful. So hopefully I won't be doing that, because I don't think anyone really wants that content. But yeah, just like tiny cuts that bleed a lot more than you thought they would. So that's my reality. My hands are probably going to be really shredded this week by the time I get all my Christmas stained glass gifts done that I wanted to do for people. Is what it is. That's really, at the end of the day, it is what it is. So back to what I was saying. Leaving comments, liking the video, all of that stuff helps out the channel. Thank you so much to everyone that has been a long-time subscriber, but also regularly likes and leaves comments. I appreciate that so much. Even if we're chatting in the premiere, I appreciate that you go back and you leave comments. And I know that you do that, so thank you for doing that. And if you're on social media, you can find me on social media. I may not be the best at replying to my social media, but I am there. You can find me on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. Look up Pocket Vintage Toys. That's the best place to connect with me outside of YouTube. But that's it for me for the entire year. There's a piece of dust flying around here. So as always, thank you so much for watching. I will see you in 2023.